Hello?
Yeah, it is,
Yeah,
but just on the
Not
stage,
too
nothing, it
unusual,
should be fine.
right.
So it's not really a formal meeting I'm calling to order, it's just a discussion at
Well,
this point.
the reality is de facto, we can do whatever we want, we can, but, technically,
Right, okay. I got it. All right. Thanks for everybody's patience. We're just kind of working out what we can do and not do tonight without a full complement
all we want.
at committee. So, this is April 1, 2024. Thank you. I can see you taking a few notes. I appreciate it. I'll do the same as well. My name is Debbie Nabavian. I chair traffic and transportation for CB12. With me tonight from the committee is James Berlin and Jody Hirson. And online from the committee, we have James Bosley as well. We have a few sicknesses, travel schedules, etc. So tonight we will, if things remain where they are, which I expect them to, we will not have quorum to pass resolutions in this committee tonight. However, we do have a co-naming on the agenda. And if we decide to move forward with that, we can always, I can bring that to what's called our executive committee the week prior to the general meeting, present it there so that it would still be put in front of the entire board at the April general meeting. So in any case, the entire board needs to vote on the resolution. It's just that if we can't pass it out of committee today, then we have another way of doing that as need be. What else do you need to know? I have both DOT and MTA here. More just for updates as to what's happening. If you wouldn't mind, I'd like to just go through goings on with DOT with our partner agencies, and then we can come to your item. For those online, I'm making gestures at the group that's here for our a co-naming matter that is on the agenda for this evening. As a reminder to everybody, a little bit about where co-named streets come from, that twice a year, the New York City Council takes up co-naming, street co-namings. And so in advance of that twice a year legislative act, we as a community board have 2 months each year to consider co-naming applications, April and October. So this tonight, the discussion that will come up after our updates will relate to June legislation potentially. Oh, hi, Bruce. All right, so we have Bruce Robertson from the committee as well. And just give me a moment, Bruce. Let me get you. Okay, so what I would like to do is actually start with the MTA, Alberto. I just wanted, I asked Alberto to just swing by since there had been little, just to see if there was anything, and just when it gets time for you to talk, just don't forget to unmute. And we have two things that I can think of off the bat that have come up relative to our district. One is the replacement of the elevators at the 175th Street station, which, because those are elevators that go to the platform, meaning they make the station accessible, it is obviously a burden to have that out of service, but it was a necessary replacement. So I just want to see if there's any update about how that's going. Sometimes if something bad is discovered, it's discovered by this point in the construction, but sometimes not. And then also, there was stuff in the news about the 190th station, if I'm remembering that right, on the A train, and getting some work. And I just wanted to see what could be shared about that, because I think when the public hears about a station renovation or what have you, we kind of think of things one way, but it doesn't mean that's the way the project is designed. So what might have happened 10 years ago might be not the way that MTA approaches these projects. So it's good to know exactly what that is. And then, of course, Alberto, anything I might be forgetting that's affecting you guys. And oh, actually, yeah.
All right, sure.
But you start with that.
All right, no worries. Thanks for having me again. Always a pleasure to be here with you and the committee and the community board at large. So just some quick updates on 175th Street. There was a minor scope change on the fireproofing for the elevator. So that's a big deal, right? Safety first, all of our projects. But we're still on track to be completed, hopefully end of Q3 this year. Should anything change, I'll definitely let you know right away.
Okay. I'm sorry. We were just your audio is coming through really, it's not garbled, but it's kind of weird.
Why don't
Can you
you
just-
have someone else talk and then we can see whether it's him or the system?
All right,
Bruce?
I can try again. You hear me better now?
Yeah, you're all garbled by Paula.
Bruce,
Um,
could you speak to us?
Yes, sir. Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Oh,
Yeah, but you're garbled as
yeah,
well.
it's our,
Paula, maybe she knows something to do.
okay, yeah, before she slips out. So just if you could repeat one more time, just because I was fiddling. When you said it was on track, 175th was on track as far as we know right now, and that was for which month is expected?
The end of for the third quarter.
Okay,
So that's what September, right? Yeah, September. Yeah.
end of third quarter. So, all right, so it could be as much as 6 months, but if we can always get lucky. You never know.
Yeah, we're doing the best we can with this project. It's moving along. The most recent item of note is fireproofing was resolved, and that's moving along for the elevator.
I can hear Alberto fine.
Yeah, I can too.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's just the owl is something. I don't know. And I don't know, like I'm jiggling wires and I'm afraid I'm going to disconnect the entire meeting. So, but so we'll just manage.
Yeah, I can also send you this an email too, Debbie. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, no, but we got that. I mean, again, we've seen projects like this where when they go in and do demolition, there's some bad fact discovered and you kind of know early. If that doesn't happen early, you have a better chance that you'll make it through without incident, but things can always come up, as we both know. So
Yeah.
just wanted to see what the
Yeah,
latest and
I totally
greatest.
understand, and definitely feel free to reach out to me if you want to get another update as we move along the next few weeks. That's fine too.
Right. I mean, we have a board member who is in a wheelchair, and she raised the fact at the general meeting that if you look at just even looking at Manhattan with various work going on certain accessible stations, if you string it together, there's actually it's created a limitation. Like obviously people move around more than within a district. So besides 175th, I think she mentioned at 34th Street, there's various elevators that are currently out.
So 34th Street having replacements right now. They're replacing all 34th Street elevators. Some have come back online, and some were recently taken off, but that's a big project right now, 34th Street.
Yeah. So she, I just may at some point, I don't know. I mean, we could talk about what makes sense for somebody to come, because the gentleman who runs the accessibility for MTA, I think is from Washington Heights. So we'd always be glad to see him because we feel like we know him well, even though I know. But just to talk about how the MTA thinks about obviously this is such critical work, but when you string it together and you're really putting people in a position of being terribly restricted, it's just how you guys think about coordinating that kind of work.
Yeah, that's always good to hear from the community. What can work better?
Yeah.
I can share with you our general thinking for accessibility in terms of new elevators and how that works. I can send you that as well. So there's a whole criteria that we have that kind of dictates our thinking with that as well.
Okay.
For future elevators, I'm saying.
Yeah. James.
The work being done on the elevators, you talked about fireproofing, is that the only work being done?
The only item of note at this time that could be a delay or not. So that's what I wanted to mention that. Aside from that, the elevator's moving along. If you need me to get
full replacement.
Oh, it's a full replacement.
Yeah.
Well, they're really old.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, obviously you guys don't move to full replacement until
And
it's really
two
needed.
to go to the platform.
Yeah, that's an accessible station.
Oh, I know
Remember,
that.
that's where we have yeah,
I just used I used the elevator that goes to the street though, but that one's okay.
I guess so. I
Okay.
didn't, that part I didn't realize.
Wait
Okay.
until you get old.
I know, yeah, that brief moment when I had a broken foot, I was like,
Oh, that's like
this
being
is
old.
really, yeah.
Yeah.
Not that I didn't get it, but then I really got it. Okay, So tell us a little bit about 190th, because I don't feel like that was presented to us. So what's
Yeah.
happening? What's included?
Great.
What can we look forward to?
Sure. So 190th was the RFP's out. We're hoping to award that September. That's been held up a little bit due to the congestion pricing litigation that you all have heard about. So until that gets resolved, that's kind of in a holding pattern right now. But we're hoping to award that contract in September of this year. What the work will consist of is exciting. So I'll tell you a quick summary of their work. It'll be water remediation. I know a lot of times you see leaks in the station. We're going to take care of that. Sidewalk repair and replacement of both station entrances. Both the Bennett Avenue entrance house facade will get repaired. The Fort Washington head house exterior envelope. So the two exterior stairways for Washington will get replaced. New concrete topping through the public areas, so that's going to be taken care of. I'm sure that needs some more work. Some more things that the public won't see is new water service and communication room, meter room that will get replaced, but that's more for our operation, not service for customers. The tiles will be either repaired or replaced as part of the contract as well. New painting, new lighting, that's always nice. That's part of the contract. And structural steel repairs, including the vent shaft, that will get replaced as well. So some things are noticeable and definitely long awaited, such as, like I said before, both entrances for Washington and Bennett Avenue will be replaced. So that's exciting for the project as well. So that's some of the high level for 190th, and I can definitely share that with you as well via email, Deb.
Okay, and let me just recap because I think I missed two, and my colleague Jody is having her
Sure.
end of the table. It's really hard to hear. So I think I missed the first thing, but I had the station entrances, both at Bennett and then the Fort Washington Avenue side, the exterior doors, paint, lighting,
Correct.
communication room, water service, structural steel. If there was something before the station entrances, I missed that. And then also, I'm just curious about is that station going to get any new art or?
So I can follow up on the art piece. Usually when stations get an ADA upgrade, for example, there's a portion of that budget slated for arts. But I can see if there's money slated in this contract for that specific art. And if so, that's exciting. I can let you know as soon as I can.
We did have a question from a board member again at our general about it would be great to have things that tie in to the cloisters in the way that at 81st it ties into the Museum of Natural History. I just remember that how you approach wayfinding and art and all that stuff, it just really depends. So
Yeah, when we put out an art or a call for submissions for artists, we tend to prefer pieces that represent the neighborhood. For example, the one that I think it was it 181st that recently opened up?
yeah,
That beautiful piece, it kind of represents the neighborhood. Very well done. So that was the one that we really were happy to put in along with others. But that's one example of having the community voice in the piece.
Yeah, for sure. Jim?
So this is an ADA upgrade, right?
No, but I think he's saying it's not an
It's
ADA.
not an ADA
And
upgrade.
because we
Gotcha.
can't be
So-
sure about
so
the
it's-
art, so we'll need to
Right.
follow up.
Well, fortunately, the station just to the south is now accessible, 181st Street Station. So,
Right.
if
And
people want to get to the cloisters, they can then get onto an
get
accessible
right.
bus.
exactly,
Right. So this is more like infrastructure stuff, so the place doesn't fall apart.
Right, and it's a historic station, as you guys are aware. So we want to make sure it's
Oh,
preserved.
actually, you may have seen it. One of the papers had an article about how either during or actually, it's my understanding that during World War II, because that station is so deep in the ground at one end of the station, because the cosmic rays couldn't get there, they actually did, nuclear experiments as part of the Manhattan Project. And then later they figured out it might be it could be a really good fallout shelter, but it isn't because there's too much air that goes around. But in terms, so
Wow.
it is historic.
Yeah.
I-
So you're saying the project, when you're working in a historic space, so it has some things that are different because, the way it was written up in the press, that seemed to be matter to these.
Well, they might want to put a plaque there in honor of this work that was done. because again, as I understand it, they did real nuclear research at one end of the station, again, because it's so deep underground, it was protected from
Wow.
cosmic rays.
So
Yeah,
we're, yeah.
I saw the article in question here. I can't speak to that, but I can definitely ask around for sure.
All right. Okay. So I'm just gonna ask you, Alberto, to stick around because I heard something that involves the MTA, and I think you were involved in, that relates to a topic we covered in our last meeting. So I'm gonna now, Lyle, get ready. Lyle's just gonna come check in with us on, the last meeting, we were discussing the situation on like 218th Street and Park Terrace. Sorry, and 215th in front of Amber Charter School, and also on 218th on either side of Broadway related to Zeta School. And Zeta wasn't able to come, but I had some interaction with them. And so Lyle had a few updates because DOT kind of went and walked around the area and did some observations. But I also came to understand that, we were very focused on the backups on 218th from Broadway heading back towards Seaman. But I wasn't really worried about what was happening over by Zeta on their like actual pickup and drop off. I was just worried that without a left turn signal at 218 for people to turn left onto northbound Broadway, like that maybe DOT needed to take a look, but that might be needed now that there is a school over there and people, departing after dropping off or picking up and then.
I think
But then I came to understand that there is a problem because the double parking, etc., that's happening in front of Zeta on the school drop off is jamming up who? The MTA, and the buses can't get by. And
We want the buses to get.
and we want the buses to come by. And I was a little bit like, wait, what? So I guess I'm passing it. I mean, Alberto, you can maybe summarize and then we'll pass to Lyle to kind of segue into DOT updates. But
yeah, I'm happy to give you.
Dismayed.
I'm happy to give you a quick update. I think Lyle, you saw in our conversations a proposal we had for that space that could potentially work for us, and happy to hear you and your team response when we get a chance later this week or whenever you guys have a response for us. So in summary, Zeta during parents pick up and drop off, they double and triple park and it falls into 9th Avenue side. So when our buses come out of the depot, they usually make that round to 9th Avenue and go up around onto Broadway for the first stop. We're unable to do that because the parents are parked there. So oftentimes we have to do a reroute, which delays either the route or in some instances have had to cancel routes. So it's really affecting our customer service standpoint for our operation out of Kingsbridge Depot. So we're hoping to work with DOT to resolve that in a way that we can have the obviously the parents pick up and drop their kids, but also ensure that our operations are not affected as like they are now.
I mean, my quick reaction is this doesn't sound like a DOT issue. This sounds like an enforcement and Zeta needs to pull it together issue, but I'll let Jim, let me have Jim.
We asked PD to come in and help us, and we haven't had much luck there. So to your question, we've had made the request.
Okay.
Well, I was just going to channel my colleagues that the key is, and you are, a major agency out there, it's enforcement. Parents may not do this, I mean, DOT can work on accommodations and all that, but until that all gets worked out, they may not block the buses. And it's the job of the police department to do something about it. And the odds are your folks probably have more clout with the police department than we do. So I would suggest that you reach out to them, because this is.
We're pulling
really
every lever
important.
we can. Trust me, we're pulling every lever that we can. We're not ignorant to that assumption on your end. We're not ignorant to that. We've made the calls that we can, and we'll continue to do that, and hope that can make
Right.
sense on us.
And the 34th has been involved in some of this, right? Like, they're not unaware of the issue, correct?
The who? I'm sorry, I missed that first part.
The 34th precinct?
They're aware of it, but that's as far as we've gotten there. They might come around once or twice, but they're not consistent the way we need them to be.
Mary,
I'm a little speechless. So let me just go to what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with Jamila from the council member's office, and then I'll go to folks, other attendees. Jamila, do you want a piece of this?
Yes.
Easy tonight.
I just wanted to hop on and just say that the 34th was aware since the very beginning of their school year, when they were having school buses transferring their kids from back and forth between this location and the Bronx location. And now that the kids are actually in the school building, it's still an issue. I think that DOT can play a part in this role, in this issue, because when I walk through there's no lines on the ground separating what's up and down. And apologies for the background noise, I'm walking home. But there's no line saying like the directions of the street, which I know sounds very simple and like something that they should understand as drivers. But if there's no order, they're not gonna follow it. And then there's other two schools as well there's two DOE schools who are gonna be moving hopefully within a year to a new location next to PS5. So the traffic is definitely gonna change there in a year. But as of right now, we're working with MTA, we're working with
Right.
making sure that DOT is part of the conversation, obviously. And also just bringing in the schools into this conversation about etiquette of dropping off your students to their school. The issue is that these kids are small. So obviously they can't cross the street alone. Parents don't feel comfortable with that. But it's becoming mayhem now, according to the residents.
I did wonder about when 278 and the other school were on the move. So
yes, they're getting a brand new building next to PS5. Obviously construction is still happening. But by the next school year, so I'm gonna say school year 2025 is when they should be all moved in there. And they're gonna merge. It's gonna be one school instead of two.
oh, is that right? Okay. Interesting.
Yes. I think.
I missed a lot of chapters. Okay. So I'm just going to summarize, because again, we're having a problem with our audio in the room, which has nothing to do with your situation. So but I'm getting it right that what you're saying is there's no more paint left on the roadways. So like so basically there's no lanes.
That's correct.
Exactly.
Okay. And so in that way, DOT can put lines down, and that would be a help for sure. Okay. But yeah, I mean, it's not just a bus line, it's a bus depot, it's lots of lines. And actually, Lyle, do you want to, before I go to attendees,
Yeah, I was gonna say I think it might be a good time for me to kind of jump in here. So I guess just to summarize the conversation, I guess I can kind of segue into what I was gonna say as far as a follow-up to last month's conversation regarding the charter schools. DOT, I asked a few of my colleagues after the meeting to go uptown and check out the student pickup or afternoon pickup for both Amber and Zeta charter schools, just to kind of see, what's going on, especially in light of the conversation that happened last month. We went to Amber and Zeta on the same day a few weeks ago. In regards to Amber, I will say, at least on the day that we were there, it was a lot better than what it had been in the past. There were no cars that were parked in the loading zone space in front of the school. At the time we had been there, there were employees from the school that were trying to manage the parents as they were coming in. It seemed pretty organized. Like I said, I must say a lot better than it's been in the past. So It looks like Amber is trying, to, uh, do their best as far as accommodations, at least on the day that we were there. Then we went to Zeta, and it was a different situation there, let's just say, in regards to student pickup. Um, it was more disorganized. Parents were, in both lanes. It is a two-way lane, or two-way stretch, I should say, on 218 between 9th and Broadway. Parents that when we had seen had cars parked in the through lane, going westbound, so going towards Broadway. So what was starting to happen was that parents would turn off their cars and physically leave their cars in the middle of the street, walk into the school to grab their kids and come back. But what would happen was that it would end up backing up other cars, and then those cars would start to go into the opposite lane. So it was essentially a wave of traffic that was going all in one direction, going westbound, and no cars were able to go eastbound. So even on a two-way street, both lanes of traffic were congested going in one direction. Um, we can do something in regards to the lane markings. I don't know if that would make much of a difference as far as how the parents are organized there. Um, I don't know if it's school policy. It seems to be that it's strongly encouraged for the parents, I guess, to escort the kids inside the school. And we understand that, but what ends up happening is that traffic does back up in the area, and it seems to be impacting the MTA. Throughout this process, I've been trying to work with both, the schools and the MTA. We brought, the precinct. The NYPD has been involved in conversations. Um, we were told by the precinct that enforcement would take place at some point. I'm not sure if it's been fully pressed to this point, but they are aware of the situation. um DOT, at least for our part, um we installed signage around the school, ideally loading zone signage, no standing signage, that would be for any school buses to pull up curbside in order to, load and offload kids, going in and out of the school. Um, I don't know if it's happened or if it's something with the teachers, or if it's just, the nature of how that area is. But the curbside was pretty jammed up. Like I said, there were cars that were pretty much double or triple parked, on that block. Just trying to get kids in and out of the school. It was quite a scene. Um, like I said, DOT installed a signage for loading zones. Um, we don't have the ability. Everything is grandfathered, just mentioned last month, as far as authorized teacher parking. Um, Zeta, both Zeta and Amber aren't eligible for that. So if there are any cars that are parked long term in front of your school, between 7 and 4, they shouldn't be. Again, those are loaded. That's loading zone space for temporary pickup and drop off. Um, like I said, we've tried to facilitate as best we could, as an agency. As far as anything else that DOT can do, physically, not really at this point. Like I said, all we really could do at this point is what we've done. We've put in the signs, in order to address the loading situation. And at this point, yeah, it's pretty much a matter. Really, it's a matter of enforcement, and the school being a good neighbor as far as educating the parents that they have to be able to be more organized once they get to the school. But it's not for lack of trying by both MTA, DOT. At least to our part, I know that the 34th has been trying also. Like I said, I don't know what measures they've been taking to this point. But like I said, it's not for lack of trying, at least, from all of us to kind of rectify that situation. We hear what's going on with the MTA. I've spoken with Alberto a couple of times, and we've spoken back and forth, as far as the agencies. But yeah, at this point, really, it's, I think, in the hands really of enforcement and the school to pretty much have that area better organized than it currently is.
Thanks, Lyle.
Mhm.
All right, so I see a bunch of hands. After James Bosley, who's a committee member, I'm just gonna ask if your comment relates to updates on the Amber situation. I'd rather take that in old business after we do the co-naming. But if it relates to updates provided, more directly to the updates provided, we'll just keep, you'll have 2 minutes and we'll do that now. James?
Yes, hello, everyone. The charter school issue has been controversial from when the very first couple have opened up here. And there's been a plethora opened up in my neighborhood, the neighborhood that we're talking about. I think there are 6 within a couple block radiuses of where I live here in Inwood. I never thought the controversy would involve traffic and transportation, but now it seems like it does. It seems like we've discussed new charter schools and their traffic issues the last few weeks. So, I don't know if this is something that we can address here, but I'm wondering if new charter schools should be part of our purview rather than the problem falling into our lap after it's already a problem.
I think it's a good point. And we have, I was just looking, we did in December of 2018, we had our first go at this in a very not good situation. However, I think it seems like there is some point at which, like many charters have a high percentage of people from outside the district. And so depending on the location of the building, sometimes you could have a location of building, it's not that much of a problem. I really didn't think the Zeta would have as much problem, as compared to Amber, which is on a much tighter street, which we knew, but there's not really nothing we could do. Like once, nobody's going to say like, you cannot rent this building. I mean, I think is how that goes. So, and so with elementary schools on streets that can't take the traffic, with charters that have a high census of non-local students, it's an issue. But we can't, in traffic and transportation, we can't take on the bigger issue of the sort of, how'd we get here or what? But I guess I'm saying it's kind of a little case by case, I think, on how we deal with it. Like we haven't had the issues with School in the Square, which has a higher local census. I've never heard anything from, there's a few that I guess are technically charters, but we never hear any, there are some that are technically so, but we don't get the issue. But there are some that are more like chains, like that have more of like people driving from somewhere with a lot of drivers. Jim?
Well,
Berlin?
I think, we have a youth and education committee that deals with schools, but I think we should reach out to them. And of course, I don't think they really control where schools end up going either. But, because it's their purview, they could reach out to the Department of Education and indicate, in addition to all the other criteria as to where a school is located, traffic patterns and the impact on traffic should be
Yeah, but it
considered as
doesn't,
well.
DOE is not involved.
Well, you mean
because
they just decide to open a charter school?
It's the state. And so
Well,
it
then
comes
reach
through the
out to
it goes through the
state.
CEC, but
Yeah.
yeah, fair, no, good
Yeah.
point, that they could, maybe we could reflect, meaning if community board on this issue could reflect our views via the CEC, which does have a moment where I think they weigh in for that state
But I think
process.
we could reach out to them, and because if the kids can't get to school, that doesn't help the education process. And if the neighborhood is at war with itself, that doesn't help the education process either.
Agreed.
The idea is to educate children.
Agreed. Okay, so again, I reserve the right to, I might move some of you to old business, but the order is Richard Kahn, Connie Vasquez, Jeremy Daniel, and Julia Cox. You have 2 minutes and a quick opportunity if MTA or DOT needs to respond. Richard.
Hi, I live at 181st Street in Fort Washington, and I have a question about the M4 bus. There's been a reinstatement of this announcement that the bus is turning. And this announcement gets repeated every time the bus leaves the bus stop. It's right outside my window. And it starts at 6 in the morning. And I'm not quite sure what the purpose of this is. I brought this up a couple of years ago, and the buses stopped making the announcement, which I really appreciated. But this particular part of Fort Washington is the corner where the fire engines from the station at 181st Street turn. I have ambulances headed towards Columbia Presbyterian, and we have truck traffic. And I don't understand the point of extra noise from these buses. So I was wondering what could be done about it.
And you said 181st and
And
Fort
Fort
Washington,
Washington.
but the bus is not in fact turning. Yeah, we actually have a lot of experience with this because, which I'm not going to go into for the sake of time, but Alberto?
Yeah, so we had a similar issue on the BX6 a few months ago. And the one thing that the bus driver cannot control that announcement. The announcement volume is usually controlled by ambient sound. So the louder the sound around the stop is, the louder the announcement will be. We are looking at ways in which we can control that into the volume and going forward. But this part of like a way to protect drivers, but also pedestrians in the vicinity of area we do turn. So
But the bus doesn't turn there.
It's not turning.
I hear you. We're looking into that, and I'll walk it back and find out a solution for you.
So
Okay.
what should I do in terms of getting informed about it or following up?
I will let the chair know the response of what our team
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah, and I'll communicate it at this meeting.
All right,
Jim?
thanks.
On that same topic, because as Debbie mentioned, it happened in another area. Apparently, the mechanism can be, have time limits set to it so that it won't make the announcements at 4 in the morning, but will make them, when there are more cars around. Obviously, these turning announcements are a safety feature and they protect lots of people, but they can't drive everybody crazy. And the other thing which was done with this other location, but I think, the BX6 is a problem because it's making these announcements, although it shouldn't be, so maybe something needs to
Well,
be.
this one's just, again, it's going straight in the turning announcement, so let's just see if we can fix the error.
Right, but my other point is that, what was done for this other location is the same, mechanism has geofencing, so you can tell it not to do it in certain places. The bus driver can't control it, but the masters of the universe who run the system, they can control it. But I think in this case, as you pointed out, and I'm sure you'll.
Sorry, I want to move the agenda, so let's, I appreciate
my
that.
sentence, that they'll solve this problem with the BX6 bus that shouldn't be occurring at all.
M4.
M4.
Yeah, 181st and Fort Washington. That's what he said. Sorry, we are having audio problems. We don't mean,
Yeah.
Connie?
Hi, everyone. Good evening. I have an update on Amber. I don't know if you want to table that to, later on in the meeting, and then a more long-range question. My long-range question is, has the MTA given any thought at this stage, before the many apartment buildings are completed, to the amount of usage and users we're going to have on the A and the 1 train?
Connie, are you referring to increased service to meet that demand?
That would be awesome.
No,
I'll take whatever
I do want to clarify your question. I'm sorry. I just want to make sure.
Right. So there's going to be a lot more ridership. We expect, we hope, I guess. And has there been, I guess, a scheduling perspective?
All right, Connie, let me just step in and rephrase. Can you?
Thank you.
To give us like the short version, because I do want to move this agenda, of like when population increases in one place, let's say, and like how does the MTA, like what's your system for being responsive to that kind of thing of like adding service, etc.
Right. So
thank you.
The short version is we're always watching the ridership increase or decrease and responding to that. So for example, this past year, we increased service off-peak for the six train, the M train, others, to meet that demand that which became from peak time to the middle of the daytime. So we're always watching trends and responding to those as well. So it may initially seem that we're not doing anything to that, but we are watching that and finding ways in which you can and have the budget work into that demand. And naturally, you have about 500 units coming online at 207. We want to respond to that. So we're going to keep that in mind.
Great, thank you. And do you want me to wait about the Amber
Yeah.
update?
And I appreciate your understanding, and I appreciate you being here to follow up. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
So hang in with us.
Yep.
Jeremy?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I live in Inwood. This question pertains to safety as well as to some of the budgeting concerns associated with the congestion pricing. Up here in Inwood, there are a lot of cars that have ghost plates and obstructed plates. They often pose safety risks to families walking and pedestrians. They speed, they blow red lights. I'm just wondering, have you all heard of any plans being conducted or planned to address this issue?
So when it comes to bridges and tunnels in the MTA system, we have been doing a crackdown on ghost plates, so to speak, and other bad actors to kind of root those out, and that will be a continuing process as we go forward with that, regardless of congestion pricing being going into effect. But we are doing some enforcement at our tunnel and bridges for those types of instances.
And Jeremy, if I can ask you the same thing I asked Connie, and I have a reason for asking, but can you stick with us? Because I do want to address sort of the larger topic that you're bringing up, which to some extent is an NYPD response, but I did have something I wanted to bring up with the committee, more of as like a new business item or discussion. Do you have a little time to hang out with us?
Yes, definitely. We're very concerned because we've had some safety issues. We've almost been hit by some of these cars, and we just don't see a lot of enforcement being done by the NYPD. So we're just wondering what gives.
Indeed, lots gives. So thanks for being here. It's a huge issue, and stay with us because, yeah. All right. Julia Cox. Go ahead.
I'm also willing to wait for old business. I'm here on the Amber follow-up as well.
Okay, great. Thanks for being here. And Paul Dokojits? Did I say that right?
Hi, it's Dokuchits.
Sorry.
That's okay. I was here a few weeks back and a few months back, actually, bringing up the BX6 Riverside Drive congestion situation, where I suggested that the BX6 remain on Riverside Drive and head north to 160, I think, 3rd Street, and then take a right and go down Broadway or Fort Washington to alleviate the problem of taking that sharp right onto Riverside Drive heading south at approximately 160th Street. I did send a letter to Frank Anacora back on February 7th. Haven't received my proposed idea. I didn't receive any response, and so I just thought I would check in to see if there was anyone here that might be from the MTA that I could actually refer to in the future going forward with making this proposal something more.
Paul, Alberto Roldan from MTA, do you mind forwarding that letter to me? I'll put my email in the chat and send that to me, and I'll see what we can do for that and get your response.
Thank you so much, Alberto. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Paul. And Alberto, I'll give you the advertisement, which I give everybody from the MTA, but you might not have heard it from me 12,000 times. The second, when Manhattan is going to start its bus map redesign process, please let me know.
We have a lot of time before then, so no worry.
I know, but it's already so much later.
I know, and there's no date for that. I do know that we're waiting to see data from the congestion pricing. We're waiting to see how that affects traffic and those trends. So there's some time before that process kicks off. But once I hear anything from that, I'll definitely.
Okay. Okay. All right. So just because it is getting late and I would like to get to the next item on the agenda, I will just say, but I'm not going to read it through, that every year, DOT sends us like who's applied for the summer open streets. So those approvals were shared, and I can share that out with the committee, and the office has the information. It's often a lot of schools have open like summer streets and such like that. So 'tis this season, we have the information. And we can get that to anybody who's interested. And is that available online, Lyle? The open streets for the season?
Not yet, at least for the ones that have been approved for this year, not yet. I think that there's a review period with the community board and the elected. So I don't think it's online yet, but it is available for your review, within the 45 days.
Oh, I see. I thought that was just, those were saying they were done, because that's how it kind of went down last time. Okay. And last but not least, Lyle, before I let you go, I'm just realizing there was a question that came into me, and Mr. Wark is on the call as well. Do you know anything about why the Step Street started to get repaired and then everything stopped and nothing's been happening at 181st Street?
So originally, I know that there were some issues in regards to the conditions of the Step Street by Pinehurst. There were some scaffolding. There was some scaffolding that was placed there, I think by DOB a little while ago, that we had to wait to clear in order for us to go back in there. Last update I received was that the Step Street was repaired, but Ebenezer had sent me something, a notification basically saying that I guess they were deteriorating again. So I've reached out to my colleagues to see if they can follow up. I have no updates yet, but when we do get some, I will pass them along to you.
Yeah. Okay, so just no, I appreciate that Ebenezer took care of the follow-up because it was in his court, but just, yeah, there's like barrels there, because it was reported that it was done, and then I was walking by and I was like, there's like barrels and it's taped off and whatever. So as soon as you obviously tell Ebenezer and he'll tell me. And
Sure,
we'll
yeah. And thanks for letting me know. Yeah, I can follow up on my end and see what's going on over there. No problem.
That'd be great.
Thanks.
Okay. Well, thanks to MTA and to DOT for being here tonight. And with that, I am going to move to our co-naming application. So I'm just thinking, do you want to like come pull up chairs maybe? Do you want to quiere acercar con su silla?
Sure, roll those chairs over there.
Or, yeah.
We keep it this way, he's saying.
And they're better chairs too.
I know, they
We promoted you.
Oh, thank you very much.
Okay, so this is it Reverend Berardo Acosta?
Yeah, that's me.
Vale, okay, from the Pentecostal Church of Washington Heights, Iglesia Pentecostal de Washington Heights.
179 Notable,
That's a busy location.
281.
You know the Ford Hall building?
You know the
Oh, at the apartments, right.
Down
And
the block
library.
from the New
York Public
Right, the block from
Yeah.
Ford Hall Library.
So, and it, what kind of building is it in?
It's it's a big
property.
store. I mean, it's a church. There's 2 floors. They're a big church.
Oh, I think, I'll go
Right there in
look
the
on
corner.
It's like a brownish
Yeah,
with a
Didn't you
big
grow
cross.
up on Audubon? Come in.
No, I grew up on St. Nicholas. It's
Okay.
different.
Okay,
Wow.
you didn't go
Well, okay.
east, I guess.
Where the bridge towers were, they used to, before they built the highway, there were regular apartments. And when I was a kid, we lived there. And when they tore down the building, I was in summer camp. And my father told him, and he brought me a brick. I still have a brick from the old building.
Wow.
Wait, the highways weren't always there?
No,
what year around, were those built in the sixties or are they?
Something like that.
Yeah.
And
I mean, they look
I was
like that. I
built
don't know.
Uh,
I learned something new.
But me too.
Nothing was always there. Maybe.
Change is the only constant.
Right, exactly. So let me just say, sometimes we have the info in advance and then Laura had sent some stuff in, but I just didn't have a chance when I got it to share it out. So if you would take like, I don't know, 5 minutes or so, just so people know on the committee, the group has brought petition signatures, which is a requirement of with the co-naming applications, and we appreciate, like, in today's day and age, people have to put things online, but that makes it easy. But you know, when you have a handwritten signatures, it really communicates, I think, that people care and know, and you know, it's a statement. So there are quite a lot of signatures. It looks like just a lot, 280, maybe more. So then the co-naming is for Reverend Carlos R. Reyes,
Yes.
born in 1924 in Puerto Rico. So yeah, tell us a little bit about the co-naming and the Reverend, and take it from there.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. My name is Reverend Berardo Acosta, and this is my wife, Carmen Acasa, right now with the pastor of the church. Reverend Carlos R. Reyes was the pastor for that church for over 65 years. 65 years. He grew up in this community. He did a lot of things for the community. He opened the church for the school to teach English as a second language, for the community people for the homeless to be a shelter to provide food. And even the homeless people that he found in the street, he was giving money. So he was a community icon in Washington Heights. And the religion word, he was an icon. He was the older active pastor for the Assemblies of God. The Assemblies of God is the council that we belong to. They have more than 78 million followers. So he was the older active pastor of this council. Pastor Reyes, he did a lot for the community. Even when he passed away, mother community was mourning him, and people were just still talking about him. During his ministry, he opened churches in Ecuador, Costa Rica, Santo Domingo, Puerto Rico, Cuba. He supported a lot of missionaries, people financially and building houses. What else can we say about well, he's one of the product. He's the third generation person that went through his hands. He was dedicated by Pastor Reyes when he was born. He was the father, grandfather, great-grandfather. One of his daughters is married to the Honorable Rolando Tomas Acosta. He's the judge, and
I knew Orlando. He used to be on the community board.
yes. So he
This is
was
your church, right?
yes, that's a church. Yes,
Thank you.
that church has been in the community for more than
Almost.
before it used to be they used to be around here somewhere in 160 something street. Then Pastor Reyes bought that building back in the 70s. Right now it's a 2-floor. It's a debt-free building. All the effort is by Pastor Reyes because he was a good administrator. He cared about the church, the people. Most of the Dominicans that came from immigrated here, it was going to the church. I came in 1975. 2 days later, I lined up in that church. I was his assistant for 15 years, the associate pastor. I spent 30 years in that church before I went to Jersey to be another pastor in another church. Then now we came back and we recently became again the pastor of that church. That church is open to the community. Pastor
Celebrates 90 years.
next year we're gonna celebrate 90 years to be established that church.
One other detail that's in the description.
So we have a written description for
Yeah, sorry, we
Yeah.
just
I-
did.
and if I'm not mistaken, I think that he was a veteran for the World War II. Yeah, he went to Korea.
The church had gone through 21 pastors before he was ordained. It
Yes.
would not have another pastor until 2022, so he served 64 years.
Wow.
64 years he was the pastor of
Wow,
the church.
very impressive.
Um,
He passed away at the age of 97, and he was still pastoring,
Wow.
driving his car from Jersey.
That's me at the end of it.
And I mean,
I think
like,
we should name something just for that.
you know,
yeah, and I mean, what's interesting to me, I'll read one other little part just about how active he must have been till the very end. God bless. He connected with local government agencies to support their efforts to distribute whatever was needed to the neighborhood, from blocks of cheese to voting registration. He gave assistance to the community by offering space so classes in English, citizenship, computer basics, and even AA were offered. During the recent pandemic, he distributed masks.
mhm.
You're 98.
Yeah.
My God. But most importantly, clear, accurate information regarding the health crisis, so residents would not be fooled by fake news and they would receive trusted, true health guidelines.
Wonderful.
And he was educated himself.
Beautiful.
Had a master's, yeah.
Yeah.
That was at Montclair?
Yeah, he went to Montclair to have a master's degree, I think, in psychology and something else.
It's a good thing for a pastor to have, right?
Plus, he had his
Psychology.
BA in theology from New York Theological Seminary
Oh,
as well.
very nice.
And, wait, this is,
And they want the corner right in front of the church, right?
Yes,
Right.
yes,
Obviously.
yes. I mean, he was a father figure for a lot of people there. So for someone serving the community over 60-something years, I think he really deserved to be recognized by some people.
yeah, and, while they came to New York City at age 20, but it sounds like he needed to finish high school, which he did at George Washington High School.
Yes.
Because where else?
Yeah.
I went to Georgia.
That's why. I brought
When
it
in
up.
Washington Heights, where else are you gonna go?
Where else are you gonna go? It's certainly in that day, but we still don't have a ton of things.
And his daughter she's a doctor in education. She opened 3 charter schools.
We were just talking about Amber.
Yes.
So they were, yeah.
Oh.
So,
Tomas wife.
That's Dr. Basti.
You know him as Rolando. This is
Oh.
Rolando Tomas.
Uh-huh. Yeah. He probably still remembers me, you know.
Oh, I'm sure.
so
Because
I
I've
thought
met
his
him.
last name was Acosta.
Acosta.
Rolando.
Rolando, yes, Rolando Acosta.
Rolando Tomas.
Right.
Yes.
Even before he was a judge, he was a very smart man, because he was very good on the community board.
Yes, yes.
And just to reiterate what the pastor said,
I'm sorry, your name?
my name is Charles Fernandez. I grew up in this neighborhood. I grew up on 176th Street and Audubon. My family, my grandmother came here from the Dominican Republic after the dictator wasn't there no more. I forgot what year that was.
Trujillo?
Yeah, after Trujillo was no more, she was able to come here. She was here for a long time. My grandmother went to college here. She received her education here. Both her and her husband, they found that church and they were with Carlos Reyes for a while. My parents grew up there and me and my sister were also raised there. And just to reiterate what the Reverend said, to a lot of people, having his name there, somebody who affected the community like that in such a positive way would be really awesome to be able to honor him in that way by having the corner at least codenamed with his name there, because through what he has done in this community, receiving a lot of missionaries and everything, that kind of pushed me forward in a very positive way. Like, I'm an EMT for the New York Presbyterian. I walk to work, you know, like my grandmother, pretty sure my grandmother was inspired by him giving food. My grandmother had a pantry from our building. She did a lot of community work here, as well as her daughter, Elizabeth Pepin. So you know, not only to me would that be like to honor him and be like awesome, to a lot of the other generations, people that are a few years older than me, like my sister who's 6 years older than me, that would be like something that really opens up your eyes and, you know, a light of hope. Because the community, especially the other people my age, you know, there's not that much hope. People see what's going on in the communities and everybody's like, yeah, it's another day. But something like that, to be able to see, oh, wow, like we have a brand new name and it was for this man who gave his life for this community, might inspire people to be able to do good and be a light for this community. So I would, you know, it would.
I think you should write the resolution. I'm inspired.
Back in the 80s and early 90s, a lot of when I used to be young, folks, like we met in church, we got married in church under Carlos Reyes. My kid was born, dedicated by Carlos Reyes. We were inspired to go to college. She graduated from Columbia University. I was assistant vice president for Bank America. Just because I saw him going to school, pastoring the church, pushing education. He inspired a lot of people, including my cousin Rolando Tomas, to becoming a judge. That's the reason we all became a professional people, because of him.
I think Rolando finally decided to make money. Now he's just an attorney now.
Is that right?
Yeah. I think he left.
It pays much better than being a judge.
He left the position in Brooklyn to becoming an.
Recently, I bet, because.
I heard.
But he was heading things, like he also accomplished so much. He might have.
Oh, no, he was very, still is very impressive. I'm sure, you know, if you need a lawyer, he'd be a good one to have. So what I suggest we do, and then I'll let you, you write the resolution, or someone else. I wrote the last resolution. What I think we should do, since we can't vote, is we can take an informal poll among the members of the committee. And, you know, if we, and then, you know, and then we can take an informal poll among the public too. We can't take official votes for general forum, but, you know, in America, if we want to have a poll, we can have a poll, right?
Yeah.
So we'll have
Great
these polls,
suggestion.
and then based upon these polls, you will, or someone will write a resolution, and we'll bring it to the executive committee, and they will officially pass it. And then, as Debbie mentioned, this will be brought up at the general meeting, and if you want to come to the general meeting, speak for a few minutes to encourage them. And they're gonna, you know, we will obviously, you know, when Debbie brings up the resolution, we'll also tell people, you know, some of the history, but if you were there, or some of you wanted to speak to, that would be good. And I think it, you know, basically, it's my fault, I suppose, but I know every reverend in the neighborhood. You know, I learned so much, and I am so thrilled with what this man accomplished. And I think the community board and the general meeting would like to hear some of this also.
So as a reminder, our community board meeting is not, it's always the fourth Tuesday of the month. It is not on the fourth Tuesday this month. It's on the 25th. I will likely be out of town. You can participate on Zoom. But anyway, but first things first, let's take an informal poll about the idea of a resolution for a co-naming, let me get this right and on the record, for Reverend Carlos Romeo Reyes to be located
Do they want to
on-
call the street a way of, you know?
Yeah, way.
Oh,
Way,
way.
Wait,
okay,
So
and you get the corner.
Reverend
So name.
Carlos.
Ceremony,
Yeah.
yes,
and I think they make an
Yes.
extra one so that the church could have one, you know, as part of the collection or something. I think
And that's
fine.
the southeast corner. Which corner is it on 179th?
do you go,
The northeast,
Northeast.
northeast,
it's a north,
yes.
yeah,
North-
northeast.
Northeast, yes.
Yeah,
Northeast.
northeast.
Mhm.
You know what? I was visualizing St. Nicholas, so I was like, isn't that a bakery? Sure, I
It is a
bought a drink.
bakery.
It is a bakery.
It's a
But
bakery
they-
there, but the next block is the church.
Okay, so
Yeah.
northeast corner, 179th and.
And I was a teacher, so the fact that he pushed education, that just thrilled.
Yes.
It even worked.
Yeah, and the idea, obviously, this is a community board. We serve as volunteers, and so this idea of us inspiring people to think of themselves in the context of service to each other and our communities, however defined, does feel always like a good thing, but in today's times feels like something I fear we might be losing a bit.
And if I may add, he was definitely a man of integrity. And aside from that, he inspired many generations. My brother and I started attending in 71. My brother still goes there. He's been there for 53 years. And he grew up there, got educated, works at a college, and he definitely inspired even our family. So
That's a wonderful.
there
thing
are
up
3
here,
or 4
yeah.
generations there.
And I'm sorry, your name again?
Oh, Carmen Acosta.
Right. You all signed that.
Yes, we
Yes,
did.
ma'am.
Yes, we
Yeah,
did.
okay. Okay, so I'm gonna start a poll about this idea for having Carlos Reyes Way. I'll start and say I vote in support. Jody,
Yes.
Jim Berlin,
Yes,
James Bosley,
I'm not a fan of naming every street after somebody, but in this case, this man is obviously a real pillar of the community, so I say yes.
I'm with you on that, James.
I agree all.
And Bruce.
Yes.
Thank you. And thank you both for being here from your travels. For those in the attendees, if you'd like to just, if you wish to be part of this poll, and I'll just do it by, if you support this and want to raise your hand as if you had a question, you can do so now. I see 1, 2, 3.
Oh, this I did not know.
Yeah, but some people might have also kind of walked away from their computers. Thank you all. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for sharing the Reverend with us. And I think we all feel a little happier hearing the story, and learning about him. And I always say in the act of sharing somebody who is gone allows us all to receive the blessing of their memory and then to understand, like, and it's how they live, right? Now I can hold that person, not just you guys. So I thank you for that.
Also attend the general meeting in person. I forget. what
Right,
it's
so you could do
going to
both.
be.
Yeah, I don't,
I think she's still trying to figure out where it's gonna be.
oh, that's right. So it'll start at 7 p.m. Public session probably won't, although you have to sign up, start until,
Starts at 6:30.
oh, I'm sorry, 6:30.
Right.
I don't know, 7:15, 7:15, but you do have to, like, at least one of you could show up to, like, put a name down and just, you'll have, I can't remember if it's 2 minutes from the audit, from the public, or 3,
I think
but
you get 2 minutes And you could also, like I said, as Debbie said also, you could also do it on Zoom. I believe the chairman will announce, you know, that you put your name in the chat or something, and then we'll add you to the list. You know,
How can we find out where the location would be?
It'll be, they'll show up online on the website, I guess, but I'm just trying to, right now, I'm just afraid to take to-dos, but, I'll
but you
also
could
tell
certainly
the
call the community
office.
board office a day or two in advance, they'll definitely
Yeah.
tell you.
Okay.
I'll definitely keep that on my agenda to follow up with you guys.
And again, it's not
Yeah.
necessary, but I think, you know, like.
Yeah, I think everybody would really love
you're
it.
Spreading the word, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
It would seal the deal.
It would, it would definitely
Definitely.
help.
And definitely, I mean, if we need to be there present, we make the effort to be there.
Yeah, and in
Won't be
it
long.
gets in a compact amount of time. I mean, and also two of you could sign up, so you would have had a few extra minutes, but you know, they'll have some of the, you know, just bringing in both sides of what you did, like the, not only who he was, but also sort of the impact, you know, just
The legacy.
the get it, the like legacy, and you being a young
Like you did
example
with
of that, of this
minutes.
multi-generational. Yeah.
Be able to compact a life in 2 minutes.
All right, well, thank you again. It was nice to meet you all. I will try to, actually, you know, Laura and I are connected by email. So what I'll do is once it's presented at executive committee, which will be the 15th, I will try to remember to communicate with her, you know, and confirm that the resolution was presented and passed in executive. And therefore will be going to the full body on the 25th. So,
So it gets presented. and
yeah, so
then
maybe
they
just
vote.
remind Laura that if she doesn't hear from me by midweek of the 15th, to just like totally email me. Or if
Okay.
there anything, she needs anything, she knows how to find me rather
Yes.
than going through the office and
Gotcha.
stuff like that.
And there's nothing else that we would need to submit. Everything is completed in terms of the process.
You have the biography.
We have the
have the bio, we
application,
have the
the
application,
petition,
we have the
the
application,
signatures and the, yeah, and the biographies. So, yeah.
Uh,
And if I have any questions in the meantime in drafting something, I will
and
certainly,
then eventually this will come before the city council. And it will.
right, so in June,
The other thing is, because our representative is Carmen De La Rosa, she might want to reach out to her too, but first we support her.
Yeah, I spoke to her before.
Oh, I-
I
oh,
met
yeah,
her.
and Jamila had, from Carmen's office,
Okay,
she helped get us all put together.
Yes.
The council member, it's been very important to her to make sure that, because sometimes like a co-naming might come in through their office, or it might come through ours, but she's been very committed that like we should always, to the extent possible, be working on it together, and that she doesn't want to be necessarily like doing something that we weren't involved in, and vice versa. So Jamila made sure that we all got connected and that you were able, just because we didn't have a lot of time, because
Mhm.
April is a month, so it all worked out beautifully. Jamila, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that we do know about the street co-naming request, so thank you, Debbie, for doing that. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting the folks who are in the room at the moment, but I do know Laura, and Laura was the one who contacted me, and we were able to figure out. So thank you, Debbie, for helping me with that, and thank you to the committee for listening to the street co-naming request.
And by the council member's office coming to us, what I mean is I had to leave the general meeting early the other night, and Jamila came like running out of the meeting, like, wait, we have to deal with this, which was great. So I really appreciate it. So what I'm saying is they really do make an effort to make sure we're all together. Anyway, so that you can hang out with us or you can go. You certainly do not. I just have a few other items I'm going to do with the committee, but again, it was a pleasure.
it was.
Our pleasure.
it was a
Thank you
pleasure.
guys for having us.
And thank you for the time.
I'll see you later in the month.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, yeah, we'll be there.
I have a quick question aside for this. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I know he will listen to the MTA.
I'm There's somebody from DOT here, I'm assuming, correct? Or
Yeah, he's still on.
I had a general concern, and it's a concern that's brought amongst me and my coworkers and everything else. We feel like there's a safety issue when it comes to traffic and entering the emergency room over on 168th Street to New York Presbyterian.
Traffic on Fort Washington?
No, traffic coming in either from
Broadway
Fort Washington and
or
Broadway.
Broadway. But either way, when you're approaching
Either
168
way, yes.
from the east or the west.
Yes. We were all talking and we kind of came to one idea that making it a one-way would help, because double traffic, double parked cars, deliveries for the hospital coming in, and then the general public, trying to get in. When we're showing up with these critically ill patients and trying to back up into the emergency bay, there's double parked cars. We can't necessarily make the turns that we have to come in, and then there's cars, either taxis or whoever it is, they'll just blatantly stay in the middle. And it's a danger, because sometimes we have to leave the ambulance and park right in the middle of the street, cause more traffic, and run out with somebody's loved one into the emergency room through a whole mess of cars, through people. One, I like to back into the ambulance bay, give you your privacy, especially if you're going through a hard time. The less people that look at you, the less you have to think about. And being able to have that access to come in and do my job shaves off time from me trying to make extra noise to move people out of the way. So I was wondering if that would be able to be a question to be brought up to DOT.
Well, yes, but I think probably the best thing, because oftentimes, and last month, the New York Presbyterian person was here and DOT. So I would say, and everybody is sensitive to, if EMTs or, when ambulances say we're having trouble getting through here or there, it's obviously of great interest. But I would say, given what this is, I kind of want to say, let's put together New York NYP plus, which is Julio Batista is our contact. So, can you make sure your email is on the sign-in?
I'll put it under
yeah,
my cell
anywhere
phone
you
number.
put it. Yeah, I appreciate that. James.
Thank you. The other thing, and that I always get back to this, there should be no double parking, and it's the job of the police department. And it turns out New York Presbyterian actually has security officers. They may or may not have police power, but they can certainly,
enforce.
But it doesn't work if you don't do it.
Okay, but let's see if I can
Just
get
off
you.
topic. It was just something that came into my mind while I was
I
here.
may
And
be
we
an
were kinda
ambulance
talking-
someday, you never
No, but
know.
no, with these ambulance access issues, it's just comes up a lot. So, but yeah, that's a doozy. If you yourselves are saying that's a problem, because
And I don't want it to come to the fact that somebody, becomes more critically ill, patient care, further patient care.
well,
is-
it's just a thing, ambulances, and then I do need to get back to this meeting. As a driver, which I am struck by how people don't definitively move aside for emergency vehicles like they used to. I mean, when I learned to drive, you never saw that. And it is just, it's like 50-50 at best in this neighborhood, or in the city, I don't know.
Yeah, sometimes people just blatantly stop in the middle while everybody else is waiting for somebody else to do something. And
Right. No, but it used to be everybody just pulled over and stopped their cars. Now everybody's like, okay, can I kind of get in there with their Gulfstream and so, okay.
But yeah, thank you.
So nice to meet you. Thank you for being
Likewise,
here.
likewise. Everybody have a good night and God bless you.
All right, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
But just don't forget your email on that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right, so on old business, I do want to sweep up, we had two people for let's see, Connie and was it Julia? I think so. Connie, do you want to open?
Yeah, sure, it's fine. Or defer, whichever. So I wanted to thank the committee for really shining a bright light on the Amber issue. I think that, you know, complaints are loud, and I think appreciation should be just as loud, and improvements acknowledged. Is it 100% perfect? Nothing is, but I think that everyone is trying. And from the 34th precinct, Michael Dapolonia, I'm sorry, has been in touch and said on the 20th or the 21st of March that they sent someone out and they issued a number of summons for people blowing off those stop signs at 215th and Park Terrace East and 215th and Park Terrace West. That's great. And I nearly fell off my slippers the other day when I saw a patrol car sitting at the stop sign to give out stop signs. I've not seen that in years, ever. So that's a good development.
That's great. That is
Yeah.
great. Because you know what, like, if they want to say like, oh, it's not priority on double parked or whatever, but like, it's like the stop sign is, and then for a variety of reasons, not just in front of a school, but just the sort of, what's it called? Epidemic of stop sign blowing.
You mean
Lawlessness, is in fact getting people killed. And so it seems like a great place to start.
Yeah, it's a great place to start. I just hope they don't take their foot off the pedal, but I just wanted the committee to know it's noticed, it's appreciated, and keep up the good work in terms of NYPD. And if Alberto is still on for the DOT, I just reiterate my suggestion that there be lights atop the stop signs, perhaps. So for when the 34th isn't available to observe, you know, people blowing the stop signs, there are light. I mean, you know, there's lettering on the street. There's the two stop signs, one on either side, and they still miss it for whatever reason.
Well, first of all, it's Lyle Blackwood from DOT, but yeah, but I would say if somebody does not want to obey traffic signs, like it's, you know, it like that's a basic of being a driver, like then you're willfully choosing.
And then you can get a ticket and you'll pay for it, assuming there's someone there, you know, who can write a ticket.
Right. And then sometimes people need 2 tickets, but sometimes they only need 1. But usually, you know, if it's anything like red light cameras after,
You need more of those.
yeah, you sweep up a lot of people by the 2nd ticket. Pretty much nobody's going back for 3rds. Connie, thanks for staying with us on the issue. Appreciate you being here. Julia, did you still want to?
Yeah.
And thank you for hanging in with us.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just wanted to share also my appreciation and the good news that the situation is so much better in front of Amber. It is really night and day, which says a couple of things to me. One, we were right that parking in the no standing zone was really a problem. It wasn't anything else. As soon as we resolved that, other things improved greatly. And then the second thing I wanted to say was that I just wanted to share some of the communications that followed on the meeting as a way of just sharing how we got to resolution. Initially, after the meeting, the permits persisted for several more days. And I sent a very detailed email with a lot of research in it about all of the very specific reasons, not just my opinion, about why the parking couldn't continue. And that was shared with Sergeant Apollonia, who was extremely responsive and but also appeared not to be aware of some of the Department of Education and school-related issues. So the research that I provided cleared some of those pieces up. And I also copied in the precinct commander, I believe, Anaudis Castillo. And although we didn't hear back from him, we saw some additional CCs after we included him on that. And it did seem like the issue got resolved overnight after he was CC'd. I don't know what communications happened behind the scenes or if he was responsible, but for anyone else who might be concerned about enforcement issues, I think some of the bump in enforcement that we've seen potentially comes to, raising the issue to the precinct commander as well. So just for other folks who are advocating for safety concerns in the community, I was a school principal for a long time, and I didn't handle everything that got emailed to me, but I made sure it got handled. So I suspect that in a similar way, the precinct commander is supporting resolution of some of these issues. So it has really been a happy development, and I hope it stays that way.
Well, thank you for, doing some time with this in every way. And I know, there's several of you, a number of you who have stayed with the issue and made change in your community. So it was nice to meet you all. I do hope things continue. I do appreciate that they wanted to be part of solutions. We don't always see that attitude, and some things might get tried and not work, but I appreciate the trying on all parties. So I hope it continues, and of course you'll let us know how things develop between now and the end of the school year. Let's see, sorry about that. Adam Pran. I think you okay.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks. I just also wanted to jump in regarding Amber's school. My take is a little different from DOT's and the previous speaker. I'm continue seeing cars parked in that no standing area in front of the school. And these cars have put in homemade parking permits, Amber School parking permits that they've printed out, and they are in their windows. There are 3 cars that are there all day long, and they've gone ahead and printed out, and just, I guess these are fake or fraudulent parking permits in there. I'd be happy to send you the photographs of them from my cell phone, but that's what I see at my end of it. It's a lot different than what DOT said. Thank you, Debbie.
Well, it's first of all, plenty of people try plenty of things with fake placards. Plenty of law enforcement does stuff with fake placards. So it either gets enforced or it doesn't. And, but to the extent, that, we'll certainly try to, re-message on the point of that was one of the biggest things to come out. It's there's a lot of things you can't change there because it's a narrow street with parking on both sides, but to have the one thing that's supposed to create a little relief in a drop-off zone, have that blocked is just a non-starter. So, but it sounds like the 34th is aware and they can ticket as needed. And the thing with the fake, people's, it's definitely a thing. And it's in any kind of you know, for any building that
Enforcement.
doesn't have, you know, DOE parking. So, but I will try to, I'll try to raise this in an executive so that the head of public safety is also aware, so they can do some reinforcement with NYPD, because we obviously don't have we don't have the direct line there. But with
That's great.
that,
Thank you.
thank you for being here. Wait, is Jeremy Daniel still here? I wonder if he had to slide off.
Well, if he's not on the list, he's not here.
Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so, I just wanted to raise, I mean, this issue of traffic violence, which we've sort of done, I think, on two different times. I'd have to look back. We've gotten at sort of at different aspects of the issue, like we had when we had the one about more speed camera and changing the legislation so that it could be outside of school zones. But we typically don't, once you make a resolution, you don't necessarily do another resolution, but the epidemic of lawless driving has translated into a shocking number of fatalities and one would presume serious injuries citywide. And the circumstances are just infuriating. And and I think this is, now I can't remember which is the city legislation and which is the state level legislation, but but this issue of the amount, so there was an article in Streets Blog, because they've done a series of reporting about how much mayhem is caused by a small percentage of drivers. And that if you look at the fatality data, I can't remember if they were looking, I think it was at 2022, not 2023 yet. But they calculated if you looked at the people who had like more than 5 and oftentimes more than 9, like in the 20s number of red light camera tickets, 47. So basically, okay, let's say you've had 15 tickets in a year or something or over a short period of time, blowing red lights. So you shouldn't be able to have your license, but people retain their license. And if you had just dealt with those people with an enormous amount of red light tickets, you would have potentially saved 47 lives, because it's a small number of people causing a lot of mayhem. But somehow we just seem unable to make this happen, quickly, which would have meant you could have done this years ago. It just seems like logic. So there was other reporting of somebody hit a cyclist, the cops come and they don't ticket the driver at all. Oh, but the driver had fake plates. They were just like, they didn't do squat. So we need to, and then the issue of the fake plates is it's oftentimes like people who are again driving in this lawless manner and are ending up in accidents or harming people and all this stuff. So it doesn't seem like it's something that's hard to legislate, but it somehow doesn't happen. So I'm just wondering, for in the next month or two, sometime before we conclude for this season, do we want to come back to it? And I just think even if it's, that it's worth coming back to and just on its own. And maybe to borrow a page from Parks's book, even though we've sort of said aspects of it, to kind of take the research that was done and the data, tying specific drivers to specific accidents of hitting pedestrians or cyclists, that it's an opportunity. So, with that, I think I'll put it on the May agenda.
Let me just second that because, there are a whole bunch of issues. It's like you said, we probably need better legislation. Because if there, and I mean, we've already seen this phenomenon that these people who get all these tickets, they're the ones killing everybody. So we have to do something about them. And, if whatever process that DMV has of rescinding license or whatever needs to be improved, that needs to be done. But then there's a whole other layer. These creeps are gonna drive the cars anyway, and if they do that, well, I'll tell you a real short story also, but we really have to, well, let me tell you the short story that'll make my point. I worked in Sweden in 1970. And then Sweden has a huge problem with alcoholism. They have no problem at all with drunk driving, none. They have designated drivers, and you know why? Because according to Swedish law, if you drive intoxicated, you go to jail for a week, and it doesn't matter if you're the king of damn Sweden, you are going to jail for a week. So if you are such a person, we have to have sanctions. And that's, we pay our elected officials and our police and courts and whatever. But, unless you enforce the sanctions, well, you have to have legal sanctions, and then you actually have to enforce them. So if one of these characters gets fined and we catch them again, maybe we use the Swedish model. But she sit in jail. She sit in jail. I would expect most of these people are men, but I'm sure there's some dreadful women out there too. We have to be fair, right?
I found myself speaking in a gendered way, and I'm
Well,
sure occasionally it's women, but I imagine it's mostly men.
I
think that's safe. So, all right. So great, not great. It's a terrible issue. It shouldn't be. One of the most recent fatalities was like a 3 or 4-year-old, and it was somebody who had had priors. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a tough issue. Wait, but I was gonna say one more aspect of that. Oh, but the attendee who had sort of raised it or wanted to talk about it mentioned paper plates and stuff like that. Like, my understanding is, there's traffic things that happen at the precinct level, but there's also a separate command called traffic enforcement. That command, I think, is the one that runs the operations. Like, the city is trying to do more on paper plates. But as I understand that kind of initiative, it's like then they go to certain locations and then, but it's more coordinated, like citywide. And then, like, if it's a location in your particular area, I imagine they borrow from the local precinct as well. So, but I'm not quite sure how it all, like, where they get knit together and where they don't. But and I don't know if it was part of some operation, or I don't know that much about the paper plate thing, but I got stuck in my car on Pinehurst between 185 and 183rd, meaning there was no egress. And there were various unmarked police cars, but NYPD personnel, and their cars were all like open door, all in the intersection, that little intersection of 183rd and Pinehurst and the HVG driveway and the dead end. And then, as everybody was waiting, because no one could go anywhere, a few people walked up to ask what was happening, and it had something to do with they were chasing like a stolen plates or fake plates, or maybe that was stolen plates and not paper, but it was quite a response.
Good.
So I was glad to know that I think everybody recognizes that you can address a lot of things that are, there's often many multiple criminal activities going on with these people. So anyway, I'll put that on the agenda. I will have to participate in May via Zoom if I can do it, because I will be traveling on business, but I should be free in the evening, as far as I know. With that, I'd love a motion to adjourn, and I'd like,
We adjourn.
I second that. This meeting is adjourned at 8:47. James Bosley and Bruce, can you just stay with me for a moment? Thank you, everybody, for being here. So Jim knows this, and I have not reapplied to be on community board. I need to take a little time off.
We're gonna talk behind your back.
I can't imagine not having a finger in this pie of community board and my community and working towards.
There's still other
yeah.
people on the meeting.
That's
That's okay.
fine. That's fine. Lyle, I told Lyle on Friday because we were talking. So it's fine. I just didn't I wanted to adjourn the meeting. But actually I should stop recording. That would be a good moment.
Are you firing us?
No. We're just gonna get a new Hefe. Hefa.
Oops. Yeah, sorry, should have done that earlier. I don't know, and I don't know things like, do I serve through June, or if they get the appointments done in May, do I
As
not?
soon as the appointments are done, then you stay on the board until the new appointments are done. Because that way we have some kind of continuity.
Right, so it's possible that May is my last meeting. I mean, I don't think that's gonna be wrapped up by May 6th. But although I think they're hoping to be done in May.
In terms of the appointment?
Yeah.
Oh, really? So she won't finish at least till June?
No.
I might not. I mean, although I feel like sometimes
You're
they
always
say.
welcome to come and visit as an ordinary citizen.
Right. Yeah. It's weird. I don't know what to say, but I'm finding it increasingly hard to kind of.
Well, let me say thank you, and I'm sure everyone out there wants to say thank you also, because
Oh, yeah, I
you
think
have
that
done
it's,
a superlative
yeah,
job.
what you contributed in just the short time that I've known you is amazing, and I think it's gonna be difficult to find anybody that even remotely comes
Yeah,
close.
I don't want to be on, I don't want to be on the board anymore if you're not going to be there.
Yeah, I think they all move off traffic and transportation too.
James, are you gonna stamp your feet also?
Yes.
No, believe me, I've been there with people leaving and be like, I don't even know how to I don't know how to do this without that person or whatever. And of course, thankfully, we do evolve and all of that.
You just
And
have such a tremendous amount of knowledge as it relates to all of this, that I just don't think anyone.
Well, there may be people out there you don't know
You're
about.
good, you're
Yeah.
good. You've been
Been there, done that. I was chair of this committee,
yeah.
You've been chair probably.
and I was chair of the board also, so.
But I think it's gonna be a loss.
Yeah, it's interesting. When I first
They will learn.
joined, it was, or maybe I had come to a meeting before I was gonna apply or whatever. And I want to say it was Rabbi Kalinsky was the longtime chair, right? He come after or whatever. And so I was like, wow, he was awesome. He was so good. I was it's sort of all I knew. I was like, how good.
Start out awesome. Everybody learned. You learned, he learned, and in fact, we're not being recorded. I helped Rabbi Kalinsky be a better chair because I taught him you cannot be so nice.
No, yeah, he was really good. But then by the time I think I was on, it was I can't remember her name now, but she had a cool name, but I can't remember. And but then she had to leave because of a relocation or something.
Oh,
And
I
so
remember her, yeah.
I just sort of was assistant chair, but all of a sudden I was chair and I was like, wait, what? Yeah, no, I was a little bumpy.
How many years have you done? How many years have you been chair?
I don't know. I'm not like all of you who've been on for decades. You're like, oh, in 19 this and this happened and this happened. And like, I'm not like, I haven't been on that many years, but I like sort of can't, like, let's say I
You
had
can't-
two
long enough that you
Shaw,
can't remember exactly.
3 Eli, and 2. Yeah, so it's possible. I'm either 6 or 8 years in. I think I'm.
The same thing happened to me. I was first vice chair of the board, and I thought that was a wonderful position. And then unfortunately, our chair had to resign because we were complaining about the 1,000 people they had in the armory. And his boss at the state attorney general's office said, you want to keep on working for us? You want to complain at community board 12? So,
Oh.
you know, basically it was a conflict. So I got to be chair. It wasn't my intent at all. And then I got elected.
Well, you're very good. I mean, my God, you have, I mean, what you guys do together is amazing, and, you know.
Well,
Yeah, no, and it is because it is something, I mean, I think.
But you now are already far more, you know, able and conversant and stuff, and that's what happened, you know.
I mean, I do understand that, you know, it's taken me a year, but it's definitely, I'm in a better position now than I was a year ago, but it's still, the amount of information that you two have is like.
I just
mind boggling.
I mean, I love the subject matter.
Yeah, I can.
And I also,
and he does.
and also thinking about it, you know, that's why it struck me when the fellow from the co-naming test talked about inspiring like service, however defined. I mean, he's an EMT or somebody else might be, you know, talking about family members who were
These
a
were
teacher.
delightful people.
Yeah, they really
Lovely
were.
people.
And that family, again, because I knew the judge and I knew that the wife was actually the founded Amber, whatever, but just sort of that orientation to you know, again, service can be broadly defined, but that we all are part of communities and that we connect to each other. And sometimes it feels like there are people who have decided that they don't owe anything to anybody. So
yeah,
getting to blow through red lights and not worry about what might happen, like is sort of some sort of birthright.
Well, the guy that
It's
drove down
worrisome.
161 and just decided to blow out the entire wall. He could have killed somebody. He didn't, but could have.
So can
No,
we really
no.
adjourn and go home now?
You really
Insurance
can,
penalized.
you really can.
I think we have to have a resolution to name 181st in Fort Washington, Debbie Navavian Place.
No, you don't want to do that because you have to be dead.
But boy, I do love this committee and I will.
And
miss
do you
all.
have like an idea that you'll go away for a while and?
I mean,
back?
all I know is like, it's not, I mean, maybe when I'm like an empty nester, which won't be that long from now, but right now I've got,
Too many
you
things
know,
going on.
yeah, some family responsibilities, you know, outside my immediate, and with that and work and all that, it's just like, it's too many things that I say, oh, that's easy. It'll take me a minute. Like I'll do it. And it's just, it's, you know, I'm not doing right. I feel like I've had this whole year, I've been really late to pull together agendas and sometimes I'm not pulling together agendas and like, and it's,
Or just the stress of it too.
yeah.
Because I haven't felt that you haven't pulled together your agendas and all that, but I think that it just sounds up.
yeah, there's just, yeah. And, it just, yeah, a lot of
Great
times.
pleasure, it really has.
Yeah, yeah. I
And
mean,
we hope
I've
you
learned
come
a-
back
I've learned
at
a
some
lot.
Yeah.
Still one of these.
Yeah. Good. Maybe I'll come back as an attendee
Okay.
sometime soon. All right. But anyway, James Bosley, I hope things are going okay where you are. Bruce, I hope you're enjoying a few days, like fun days out of town. And thanks everybody for hanging in with us tonight. Bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night.
everyone.